Yes. Sorry about this background noise. When do you go on now? Yes?
Yes.
Yes? Good evening, everyone. We are gathered here today for a tribute reading for Veronik Jussawalla, who is, as you know, a potter, a painter, and a friend of...
I want you to wait.
Ah. Well, you know my opening line. Right. Good evening, everyone. We're here together to do a tribute reading for Veronik Jussawalla. I am Priya Sharukai Chabria, and I'm presenting this evening of tribute readings to Veronik Jussawalla, who was potter, painter, and friend to generations of poets. Many of us remember her very fondly, people on screen and many off, for her wit and her warmth, her bright personality, her love for repartee, and actually, I think very much for the warmth and hospitality that she offered everyone who came to visit her and her husband, Adil Jussawalla, in their house by the sea. And this reading today is because each of us have a Veronik we cherish, which we want to share. And also it is not only to celebrate her memory, but also for her husband, Adil Jussawalla, for her family in France, and particularly her daughter, Katya. Now, before I begin, I would really want to thank Kitab Khana for hosting this long evening of readings, and their event manager, Niyati Joshi, and our coordinator from Kitab Khana, Mansi Dhanraj Shetty. And of course, one thanks Adil for being so generous and sharing from his family album, photographs which we will soon see. I must thank Anjali Purohit for being my support for all these weeks, and also for designing the wonderful poster that you've seen. And I thank Ashwani Kumar for driving down to Adil's house, Jussawalla's house, and taking the photographs of the photographs, from which we could make the video, which was done by Mrinalini Harchandrai. It's a beautiful and moving piece, which I hope you will see soon. And also to all the other poets who are here, especially I think Anju Makhija, Ranjit Hoskote, Mustansir Dalvi, and Menka Shivdasani, who've also been with me during this period, and Smita and Suhit for their help too. So thank you, everyone. I'd like to begin the evening by streaming the video that Mrinalini has made of these photographs from Adil's family album of Veronik Jussawalla. Mansi, let's have the video, please.
of your complacent state. I know all I ever wished to, of a life destroyed by fate. It's so strange you never notice anything but where you are. Step outside your gleaming prison, or is that a step too far? Or is that a step too far?
That's for Veronik. And the music from Elton John's aria is, the song is A Step Far. It was chosen by Adil to go along with the video. And now request Gieve to start off the readings. Gieve Patel, please. Yes, Gieve.
Okay, is that fine? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Priya. And thank you very much for asking me to lead the reading for this memorial. I feel very honored and very happy to do so. I have a small album of pictures, but they are verbal pictures. And they are little flashes, so let me send them out to you. My chronology may not always be correct, but here goes. Adil and Veronik dancing at their wedding party at Palm Springs with a small crowd of dancing friends, myself and my wife Tony included. 2, Katya, Veronik's daughter from an earlier marriage, is part of the household. She's a delightful, bright presence in the house. Very young, just a girl almost. 3, my wife Tony, my daughter Avan. Avan would have been about 3 or 4 at that time. Veronik and Katya make a trip to Khandala without Adil and me. We later hear all about it from them, how they enjoyed their 2 or 3 day holiday. 4, 3 or 4-year-old Avan comes to visit Adil and Veronik with us. She has a new dress on, and Veronik notices it, and she says, "Elegant." And it made the day for Avan. It was such a gracious and beautiful compliment. 5, Pipaluk is the smallest dog I've ever seen. He's part of the household, much loved. I don't know the name of this specialized breed, but he was incredibly tiny. And I would wonder at his eating habits. Most dogs wolf down their food. Pipaluk would always be gently nibbling at his food. 6, Katya has now grown up into a beautiful young lady, and she soon leaves for France. 7, my periodic visits to Adil for a couple of hours of literary conversation, spiced with literary and art world gossip, and how kindly Veronik would serve us delicious crepe, pancakes with honey and raisins. 8, Clearinghouse, our publishing venture. I would visit during weekends since I was by then a medical practitioner in Sanjan, Gujarat. And Veronik would always be there to participate in all our plans and all our work. 9, there is what I might call a pin-up of the young Rudolf Nureyev, always on the wall in Veronik's room. I can't remember when I first saw it, but I feel it's still there today. It's remained there forever. And he looked incredibly handsome in that picture. And this tells us something about Veronik's almost teenager vitality. It really was a pin-up photo. As she grew older with us, the photo remained young. 10, a relatively recent discovery of a shared passion. I saw Veronik reading Émile Zola, a novelist I greatly admire too and read regularly. She was reading L'Assommoir, one of his greatest novels, in French. And I've had to content myself with reading the English translation. That's my album. I will now read 2 poems, one by Adil, and then I'll end with a small poem by myself. This poem of Adil's is one of his best. It's a profound work, and I think that it is very, very appropriate for today's reading. It's called Lighthouse. It speaks about storms in external nature. And then the storms become internalized, and we realize that the poet is talking about internal cataclysms, which always create such change in a human being. And slowly, the poem drifts towards the 2 points of light. One, his mother looking at the light in a distant church where somebody is always praying. And his father working quietly through the night in a dim room with a light in it. And how these 2 lights have been a great support for his life. It's an exquisite poem, Lighthouse. The great romantics said it with shipwreck, Jericho, Turner, how elements fuse to block out all light, then crash on the hapless, left clutching air, or if lucky, lifted again to try salvation, to catch signs of life on a hill, a shoreline, a lighthouse. So it was in the lands I've been on, not at sea, in disparate rooms disconnected, not built to hold off or spare us the great resurrections that shatter, that we first believe come out of nowhere, but later may learn rise from depths of our own, their unlit places. Only if given the chance to be freely aware as we are engulfed that all is not lost, calm happens. Just as Mother was calmed by distant light from the chapel of silent unity, someone there always at prayer. So I too try to be stilled by her faith, that light, the prayer books she left, beginning to see in and from time still available, from childhood in fact, 2 or 3 people or more in its neighborhood, downcast by night, watch something steady, hidden from sight, Father writing his books, a room in what appears to be unfeasible darkness, its window uncurtained, its one light on. I'll end with a short poem by myself, and I think, again, appropriate because it is titled Friends. And I think that Veronik would have enjoyed this poem. It's about 2 early teenagers, not friends, friends, Friends. It's about 2 teenagers, pre-teenagers, almost 14-year-old, 13-year-olds, who are not very wealthy. And so they have just one cell phone between the 2 of them. And they have just one blue and white cap between the 2 of them. And they are visiting hanging gardens so that they can take photographs of each one of them before almost every flower in the garden. And they have to devise a way, since they have only one camera and one cap, because the cap is obligatory for the photograph. They have to devise a way to do this. And so this poem is about the choreography that they devise in order to get these photographs of both of them. Friends. 2 14-year-olds at hanging gardens, 1 cell cam and 1 blue and white cap between them, spend their 20 minutes serially clicking themselves before flowers. The one having clicked, taking the cap off his own head and placing it on the erstwhile photographer's. Now sitter in turn, who later surrenders cap and claims cell cam again to click his friend a second time round. I do believe not a flower would have declined posing along. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you also, Gieve, for, sharing with us the nitty-gritties, because this is what really keeps the person alive in memory, I think. If we tend, I wonder if all of you will agree, if we tend to smother them in sentimentality and sweetness, we lose them. But when we remember them, try to remember this, then we have something else. And talking about that little dog, I had an experience. I was this giantess standing up there, And all that Adil and Veronik did was laugh instead of taking it off me. But finally, it decided I wasn't right and left. So with this, we go to Vinita Agarwal for her reading and tribute. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Priya, for putting this together. This is clearly a very poignant moment for all of us, and a very stirring sense of parting and separation assails me when we discuss Adil and Veronik. So I'm going to read two lyrical poems. I penned these about 4 to 5 years ago, and they're part of my. And strangely, I thought they really fitted the occasion, so I chose these two. The first one, titled Slowly, is inspired by one of the most, one poet that I deeply admire, Aga Shahid Ali. It's titled Slowly. This diamond-cut spring, I am inconsolable. My dying held in shape with metal sutures. The post office is 16 breaths away, but never brings good news. What lies in stock after festive spring has gone? What lies in stock? Your lapses hurt 1,000-fold more than the indifference of Manhattan. A blue uniformed carer, perhaps, transmuting the sorcerer of my pain. This non-surgical tumor is an immortal sestina that my body has created from its polished dangers. My heart is restless, and the cuisine of winds bitter. I will leave sweet poems for the shrine of your heart. So what if life is no longer in stock? So what if rain fills my pen? The second one that I'm going to read is titled Must Begin Anew. It's a found poem sourced from California by Vikram Seth. Of you today, the long stone walls touch, slipped through the sieve of falling starlight of love. Anesthetized by years, I think green hillsides, renewed with rain, the house, blinds drawn, the phone, a comfort. Bark and a few blackberries. I walk with you. You cannot know the end again along these settled trails. My shadowed self, what survives is the weathered past. The still phrase falls on lack of hope or faith. Sunday night, and much is left to be desired. Your long absence is here with me, along the parched foothills, long along the night. The random rain outside, your words, old letters, blame, some bitterness is justified. I have closed out the sound of the kettle. You vouchsafed me in the same disjointed script. Still, old love wells. Only conifers honestly blend with the rain. Must begin anew, you had turned to say. Thank you, Priya. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vinita, and thank you for the wonderful poems. I think, your choice of poems was marvelous. So what if rain fills my pen? And it does ours. And yet we continue, as we must. And now I ask Suhit Kelker, please, to read his tribute.
Thank you, Priya. And I'm going to read out one sonnet written by Mr. Farooq Dhondi, who I believe sent them to you and you send them to the group. And So this is sonnet, it's called Sonnet for Veronik. And there's a preface to it with sincere apologies from a versifier to poets, very, very modest of him. Sonnet for Veronik. Are we but fragments of our memories, our own and those we love and call our friends? And do these fragmentary moments freeze till some occurrence in our present tends to melt the moods and feeling of those days and bring back moments with some laughs and tears? Those pubs in High Street Ken are now a haze, but images of you and Katya clears the contact lens of memory. I see you radiant on the streets of Kolaba and standing on the Palm Springs balcony, pointing to the latest outrageous car, some architectural monstrosity, another eyesore in Mumbai city. Thank you. Priya, can you hear us?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, those poems were actually sent by Farooq Dhonde to Adil Jussawalla, who shared it with me. There were 2 poems, and I'm glad you chose one. I believe the person who's going to be reading next, that's Smita Sahay, has also chosen a poem by Farooq Dhonde. Am I right, Smita? Yes, please.
Thank you, Priya. This is the second sonnet for Veronik by Mr. Farooq Dhonde. And Veronik, you never ever called me by my name Adil would always use. You called me Big Bear. I was not appalled. As being her suit, I had no excuse. Though then I was bushy, bearded, and black, but you called me that through the years. Despite the passages of time, no looking back, my balding hair had turned a seagull white. These memories and all the wines we shared come back now with no sadness or regret. I really loved you, Veronik. I cared for all the ways we were displaced. And yet, while memories last, I will think, Big Bear. If life means death, then why should we despair? That's a very beautiful, poignant sonnet, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity for having read this for Veronik and for Adil. Priya, thank you so much. And, I just wanted to share these 3 very brief memories that I have of Veronik. One was, I think the last time when we saw her together when she was in the hospital. She had given everybody quite the scare, but at that time she was feeling better. And she had begun joking with the nurses. The other time, she was extremely distressed because of the horribly noisy metro construction going about, because of which she had to keep her windows shut. And she had also heard of some bigger machines which were about to, come for that construction. And that dread and the pain from that noise, I still remember how much she hated that. And the third I remember is when she was heartbroken after Eunice had passed. She said Eunice was my friend. Eunice was the one friend I had in Bombay, and she's gone, and I feel so lonely. For her beauty, her warmth, and she was so gracious. I was almost a stranger. I was a complete stranger to her. She was so gracious. We'll always remember you, Veronik. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Smita. Yes, I think a lot of us remember her graciousness, but now we do something slightly different. We skip the alphabetical order because Mustansir Dalvi has to take class soon, and he, will be next reading. So please, Mustansir.
Thank you, Priya. As it happens, I've also been able to reschedule.
Oh,
So I will be with you all for the duration, but thank you for doing this for me. So in celebration of Veronik, I would like to read two short poems. One is by E. Cummings and the other one is my own. This is a poem that always cheers me up whenever I read it, and it is a great favorite. Uh, uh, the poem is by E. Cummings and is popularly known as The Moon's a Balloon, but the title is Who Knows If It's the Moon. Who knows if the moon's a balloon coming out of a keen city in the sky filled with pretty people? And if you and I should get into it, and if they should take me and take you into their balloon, why then we'd go up higher with all the pretty people than houses and steeples and clouds, go sailing away and away, sailing into a keen city which nobody's ever visited, where always it's spring and everyone's in love and flowers pick themselves. This next poem is my own. It's called Kintsukurai, which I'm sure you know is the Japanese manner of repairing broken ceramics using lacquer and gold dust. And this is a poem addressed to Ghalib. Kintsukurai. I have never believed poetry heals, but words can be bird lime that keep the bricks of our fragilities in place. I wonder, Ghalib, could you not have reassembled the shattered shards of your heart rather than run to replace it from the bazaar? Could you not have chosen instead to glue the pieces with your felicity? Were you afraid of amending rather than mending your beating chalice? Did you not trust the lacquer of your verse to hold it all together, like it does those who hold your divan as a bulwark to their lives? Your words are brickbats to the enraged and marble to those whose ardor needs cooling. My name is mud. Gold runs in my veins, grouting an imperfect dam that holds. Thinking of you, Veronique, and of you, Adil. Thanks once again, Priya, for the opportunity, and back to you.
Hello?
Yeah, I think you'll have to unmute yourself.
I think I'm unmuted now. Yes? Okay. So it's this opportunity, it's not really an opportunity. This evening was born out of, I think, friendship and longing, and knowing that all of you would be there to read for Veronik and also Adil, but remembering Veronik. So it's really thank you to them, you know, and not really particularly to me. Sampurna is next, but I don't see her.
Here I am.
Okay, Sampurna, it's you. You're.
Yeah, thanks, Priya. And you said each of us have a Veronik we cherish. The Veronik I cherish is the one who had the capacity to make me feel shy. This is something that happens very rarely. And thinking about it made me realize that she offered me this unique gift. She took me back to the core of who I really am. I'm thinking of that, and I'm thinking of her warmth, particularly on a very rainy afternoon, some monsoons ago, when I landed up pretty much drenched. And her offer of warm, dry clothes has stayed with me like a warm glow in my heart. So this poem is for her, and it is also for Adil, a new poem. Shall I listen well or not at all? Shall I listen well or not at all? The pushed back chair, the smur of feathers, gulp in the swelling throat. A soft male call, clink of metal spoon on metal plate, mobile phone on tabletop, snuffle, heart-stopping ping of messages. When the day holds its breath, magnification occurs. Even the littlest sparrow is here, enormous, and I all ears. Today the world is aviary, a twitter with cheeps and trills, clucks and caws. Even the chainsaw hatchet bird on the wing has taken exception to calm, insisting on escaping freedom and seeking the small, long ceased to sing like they meant it or even knew how. To absorb the morning sun, to absorb the hushing down, the slow, startling scatter of motes, the peaks and troughs. Already so much energy being spent all around me. The quarreling flocks, no wonder they turn in early to bed with the setting sun. How absurd to make happiness alarm instead the sleeping dogs. Don't let them lie there like reproach. Awake them risking wrath and rabies, so you know you still care about books and joy and danger, without which no song will come. What the idea demands is your life. Shaken out of smithereens into wholeness, there can be only one way. And before the voice says forward, stun it with a pin. No safer place than the wall, blinded by the light, no light so brutal. Stay close to the ground where the murmurs wait. Snap out of instruction into insurrection. Let every word that matters count, be counted, fatal, like each life. Thank you for listening.
And thank you, Sampurna, for sharing that wonderful memory. And I think many of us agree that, Veronik's generosity really took us all, it threw us all, because she would just be there and so full of life and ready to help, which was remarkable. And now we ask Ranjit Hoskote to share his memories. Been known Adil and Veronik for many years. So please, Ranjit, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Priya. I'm really not sure where to start. I tend to do memoir better when I write than when I speak. But I was just thinking back to when I first met Veronik. I was 20 years old. And over the years, I should have really spent more time with Adil and Veronik than I did. But I'll always think of her as someone who loved brilliant colors, as we were saying earlier on in these exchanges, who had a rich creative imagination of her own, who could be a very quiet but effective presence in a room, and who had an impish sense of humor. Just the wry remark. So she's very expressive, as you know. It's just a slight expression with which some pomposity or something that had outraged her in the city could be expressed, could be deflated. So these are the things I'll remember about about Veronik. Also a very special lunch about 21 years ago when Nancy and I were getting married, and Adil and Veronik invited us across. It was a beautiful long afternoon with them and with Kaveri and Vijay Nambisen, in the course of which, again, Veronik may have said very little, but she conveyed a great deal through just the right intervention. And again, it was, you know, when one did have a conversation with her, it was marvelous to look at the kind of archives she drew on, whether it was talking about dance or about ceramics or about painting. And as you've all been sharing your memories, it just struck me that like the lives of the poets, I think one should embark on a possible publication called The Wives of the Poets. I'm just thinking of happy years spent, for instance, with Tony, where as a much, much younger person, I was involved by Tony into her theatrical projects, her theater projects, and ended up doing several play readings with her. We traveled, thinking of the times when I've sat with Vandana, Arvind's wife, looking at the beautiful drawings that she produces. Thinking Veronik, of course, thinking back to Sunu. And there's that whole set of narratives, which we don't, you know, it's part of our oral history in this subculture, but we don't always put it down. You know, it circulates among us, it's a reserve. It never gets written about when people set out to write about the Sarkar or the avant-garde or literary generational conflict or whatever it might be. I think maybe we just need to think of a new kind of literary history that includes these vital but less remarked upon lives. So I'm going to read two poems, both of which have to do with distance and with time and with going away. Because I was also always fascinated by how Veronik led this transcontinental life, deeply, deeply rooted in Auvergne and central France, where she came from, and also bound to our city, Bombay, through a few well-chosen, deep, lifelong friendships. And of course, a great interest in both these environments. This one's called Explorer, and it goes like this. Boots burst, sleds gone astray, Samoyeds baying, he's locked in ice. More than anyone else in the world this afternoon, he needs the consolation of arrival. Dry earth, a house in a laburnum grove, soft sheets and a fire to warm his hands, a dog to nuzzle his face. Any dream of home to ward off the flows that drift towards him, blocking every direction on his lost compass. The sun has flared a deep red orange, the color of a beloved word he was trying to recall. It escapes him. Coursing in his bloodstream, the poison of time swims from organ to organ. His mind, tired recruit to the staying game, now loses the heft and smell of words, all but white, which dances between him and the blotted sun. Gravity cannot hold him. He is ready to travel. And this one's called Harbor Thoughts. Land is what you sight from a storm-broken ship, the mirage they forgot to sink. You hold it in your eyes, mouth clenched around a flask of brine. Zameen is where your ancestors made landfall, measured off a site between the mountains and the wash of the sea, marked its boundaries with the king's horsehead seal. Land is what you look for all your life. Zameen is what you hope to find. Thinking very much this evening of Veronik and of Adil and of their loved ones here and in France. Thank you, Priya.
Thank you. for taking us back time. And yes, you're right, one should. And then, and Suresh and Veronik got on very well. As a matter of fact, they were, Suresh would, Veronik, through sharing remarks about jewelry, because she used to wear these dark clothes and then these fabulous jewels and baubles and beads, which often she made herself. And that was one way. It was like a bridge of sparkling stones on which we began our friendship. And yes, you're very right also when you speak about her quiet presence. I mean, she was like a hummingbird, bright, petite, but somehow in that quietness, when she sat next to you, you felt an immense energy and empathy. I always thought she was tremendously empathetic to all the young poets and the not so young poets who drift in and expect to be there for our friendship and hope and celebration. And it's in the memory of Veronik's generous spirit, which will remain with us. It's Forever Young by the Nobel Prize winner for literature, Bob Dylan. I choose this because it is, as I said, hopeful and full of good wishes. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. May you stay forever young, forever young, forever young. May you stay forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright, and be strong. May your feet always, may your hearts forever young, forever young, forever young. May you stay forever young. And you will stay in our memory, Veronik, you will stay. Thank you to both Veronik and Adil for all the friendship they've shared with me and Suresh. And now I call upon Mrinalini. I ask Mrinalini Harchandrai to please read her tribute.
Thank you for having me here, Priya. I think putting together a 4-minute video can't really tell you much about someone's life, just the highlights maybe. But I feel like I got to know, I got to know the artist Veronik a little better through the images that were sent my way to put this together. So I'd like to read a poem by Henriette Theodora Markovich, more widely known as Dora Maar. Like Veronik, she too was of French birth, a photographer, a painter, and even a muse to a well-known artist. It's relatively obscure to find, but Dora Maar is known to have written poetry too. So for a taste of Veronik's first language, I thought I'd read one out in the French original, of course, with Bombay slipping in through my accent. And then I'll read out its English translation. And then if there's time, I could read one of my own. So this one is untitled in the French. Dans le secret de moi-même, et moi-même secret, vivant tu me fais vivre. Dans cette chambre où j'ai vécu la folie, la peur et le chagrin, c'est l'éveil simple, un jour d'été. L'exil est vaste, mais c'est l'été. Le silence en plein soleil. Une enclave de paix où l'âme n'invente que le bonheur. Un enfant sur la route de sa maison. For those who knew Veronik's personality, I feel like in this poem, one could take creative license and just replace the words madness, fear, and grief with humor, art, and Bombay spice. Here it is in English. In the secret of myself and my secret self, living you make me live. In this chamber where I experienced madness, fear, and grief, it is the simple dawning of a summer day. Exile is vast, but it is summer. Silence is full. Sun, an enclave of peace, where soul invents only happiness, a child on the way home. Very short poem of Dora Maar. I thought I'd just read one by myself since, like Veronik, I guess I was also a ballet student once, and just related to how she must have hung up her leotard as I did once. And anyway, here it is. It's called The Slippers. They lie with crickets, dusted in the dragonfly iridescence of wings, a pair of ebbed swan songs that knew their place marks on the dais floorboards, fashioned with pearly sweat and ribbony sinew. They leapt at the chance to aggrandize limbs, gave leg to deep spins, and offered toe holes to marquee lights full of flash bulbs and stars. They wear peels and tears like faded dancers whose skin know lines from whipped whirls taut with longing. The zephyr has been spent for the satin sylphs, a pas de deux who capered in a cabriole for polonaises and polkas, mazurkas and tarantellas. After seeing all the world in a stage, like fallen lovers within a cobweb drawer, the star-crossed sugar plums play their finale, sleeping. Beauty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrinalini, for really bringing in all those references to ballet, which was so much part of Veronik's life too, you know, because, and thank you also for putting, for creating the video, which was so moving, but particularly also for reading the poems in the two languages, which I think in a way crosses the distance between here and her family in France, and as Ranjit mentioned, as it were, her double life, being here and elsewhere at the same time. So thank you very much for all this. And now, Menka, Shivdasani, could I request you to please read your poem to her? Thank you.
Thank you, Priya. I do not yet have a title for this poem except the title that I used, which was her name, Veronik. The sky has become my canvas, and my eyelash is the brush. I'm painting petals on the clouds in gold and red, purple, white, and blue. You who looked after me so well when the hallways of the mind seemed stark and cold. I miss you, but I could not stay. The wind over the ocean called out, my tongue turned to birdsong, and I flew. I did not know what I'd find on the other side. Vast green fields, I'd heard it said, by those who had claimed to have done the journey and returned. My wandering spirit finds a different rainbow on each horizon. I know now that 7 colors are not enough. Each year we had together was a different shade of joy. And I haven't left. You will find me in every wave that's washed ashore, each seashell that lies unnoticed in the sand. I remain in the iris of your eye, through light and shadow, and every lattice dream. The pictures that you're seeing on the screen that Mansi is sharing were taken in 2013. And unfortunately, I have not gone over as often as I should have, but I will always remember Adil and Veronik for the warmth and hospitality that I experienced there every time I went. The thing about Veronik was that no matter how busy or how ill she was, she never forgot to ask about the family, especially my daughter, who was 2 years old the first time I'd taken her there. And just about a month before she passed away, I'd gone and she asked me, how's your daughter? And I said, my God, my daughter is a big girl now. But she remembered to ask. And that was always really important to me. You know, that's one thing I will remember. Incidentally, the kurta I'm wearing today is also something that will always remind me of Veronik. Because just a few weeks ago, Adil called me up and said that when I had worn this to their house, Veronik was very struck by it and he was looking to buy something similar. It's about 9 years old and I cannot wear it without thinking of Veronik. Veronik, we're going to miss you. Rest in peace. Thank you, Priya, for organizing this. And Adil, we are always there for you, even if we don't meet as often as we'd like to. Thank you.
Thank you, Menka. Oh dear, you did say we miss you, and I do think that as the evening goes on, we miss her more and more, and we want her with us again more and more. And what we should hold on to are the fond memories. So I'll quickly ask Dion to read, please.
Thanks, Priya. A very good evening to everyone. I hope I'm clearly audible. So I would meet Veronik and exchange a few words with her each time I'd go over to visit Adil at their flat. And I remember each time before I left, Adil would stop me and remind me to go back in unfailingly and say bye to Veronik. And this was probably from one of my initial visits to Adil and Veronik, that Veronik happened to come out of her room to catch the evening news. And it was just the two of us in the room at that point of time, because Adil was refreshing his cup of tea. And Veronik turned to me and she said, "So, are you a poet?" And I very seriously replied, "Yes, I am." And she didn't have anything to say to that. She just flashed a very knowing smile and gave this little shrug and tilted her head back. And I thought that was the perfect reaction. So I'll read a short poem that Eunice D'Souza dedicated to Veronik. It's called The Hills Heal. The Hills Heal for Veronik Jussawalla. The hills heal as no hand does. The heart is stilled by the blue flash of a lone jay's wing. Impossible to forget, you think, the shadows of the sun here, ever purple, the receding plains where the wind still blows. Yet the world will maul again, I know, and I'll go gladly for the usual prize. Emerge to flay myself in poems, the sluiced vein, just a formal close. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dion, for adding your memory to this small heap of memories we are putting together this evening, and for choosing such an apt poem. Veronik's best friend writes her a poem. Isn't that lovely? I now request Bina to read her poem, please. Unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me with all of you. And I just want to say that Veronik and Adil used to live just across us. And that was years ago. And I have those very, very old memories with me till now. And I want to tell Adil and Veronik and Tatya and the family out there in France that I'm with you. I'm still with you. So I want to start, I read some short poems quickly. And I want to start with my friend Dilip Chitre's. I'm just extracting a part, which is, it's titled, Moths Drink the Tears of Sleeping Birds. And he asks this question: did you know, however, that moths drink the tears of sleeping birds, that magpie robins weep in their sleep? You're already on the other side and cannot answer my questions. It occurs to me, I should have asked them when you were alive. But moths do drink the tears of sleeping birds, and I'm learning new facts I don't know how to use. Who drank your tears when you slept at the end of your troubled days, before death took you away? Was it a moth that touched your eyelids just before the dawn of your last day? That's my friend Dilip Chitre's poem. And then I want to read my other friend, Joyantu Mahapatra, whom I call Dada, his poem, How High Your Smile. My life moves through you, an hour between chastity and the craven ritual behavior. I watch the evening wear your smile as you and I journey into each other, swapping rhythms, inventing the need for a reason all evening. We rehearse the stages of rebirth, and moments divide their shadows running here and there in this deserted park. Oh, how high your smile, how the dog nips down the park, looking for his bone, not believing it is not there ever. And then, bear with me, I have this lovely poem by my favorite poet, Ramanujan. A rather foolish sentiment, said of course to a girl some time ago. I have no head for tunes, so into the dark I can carry no singing voices, no flutes. No eye for colors either. So no pigments for my caveman painting, nor even the gold and the silver filaments that lanterns are said to throw upon your hair, but only the passing touch of people whom I once touched in passing when they let me pass. Perhaps it will not pass, for in that touch, I think, I stumbled on a pulse and wandered like a fool who has no proper sense of body, if it were yours or mine, and wondered if you wondered too. And then the last one is for Veronik, which is a little haiku that I wrote for her. 3 lines. Petite and precious, Veronik lived on her terms, an understatement. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Bina. Of experience and indeed remembering Veronik. And now the next person to read will be Anjali Purohit, who will be reading the poem Ballet. And this was a very special poem Adil wrote for Veronik for their marriage. Anjali, please. And thank you once again for the poster and all the help you've provided and all your...
I could do. Thank you, Priya. I will read the poem Ballet. And again, saying that I don't have memories that go back as long as some of the poets here. I have known Veronik in her later years when she was frail. Nevertheless, the liveliness and the wit in her eyes never faltered, and she was just as warm and gracious. And whenever I went to say bye-bye or hello and I held her hand, it's a feeling that will stay with me forever. We will remember you, Veronik, and Adil, and all of Veronik's family. We are with you in this time. I will read this poem, Ballet. The spiders were, and this is from his book, Trying to Say Goodbye, and just as we are trying to say goodbye, though Veronik will always be with us in our memories. Ballet. The spider's web above the lamp we bought before our marriage sways in a light breeze. One thin arm grips one of the lamp's chains, the other another. One of its legs points up, the other down. I don't see the spider. You don't see the web. It's our home after all. We are dancing. We've danced. And so with this very beautiful poem, I will end and my tribute to Veronik. Thank you, Priya. Thank you, Mansi, for really taking so much trouble to organize this for us, because at this time, in fact, we all would have been with Adil, but the way things are, we have to do this from a distance. Thank you, Priya.
Thank you. Thank you, Anjali. And yes, you're right. We gather here on this virtual platform because we cannot be with Adil. We were not able to be with Veronik. And 2 days after her passing, here we are paying tribute. What shall I say? In fact, I shall not say anything, but just ask Ashwani Kumar to read. And thank you, Ashwani, also for going and taking the photographs from Adil's house. Please do.
Thank you.
Let us have your reading.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you. Thank you very much, Priya. I've known Adil, through his poetry as well. So I can relate to Veronik. In fact, Priya, when I went to Adil's house this time to collect photographs and work through photographs, I literally entered into Adil's very intimate spaces. So I have my long notes. Adil shared, if Adil is listening, thank you, Adil, very much for sharing intimate, conversation about your life poetry in Veronik in Mumbai and France. So what I'm going to do that, the 2 poems I'm going to share, which are very, very fresh. In fact, when I came back home, I wrote these 2 poems, very short poems, and that relate to, the hours that I had spent at Adil's house. So there is an imaginary Veronik, there is a real Veronik, and there is a surreal Veronik. So the first poem is titled Memory, a Language Game. It's about memory, aging, and also about language. It is tough to be a child in the old age. It is tough to be a child in the old age. Our parents are still young and agile, but siblings have turned overgrown rubber toys, teasing, tormenting each other in the twilight years. I am not surprised when red-eyed bees and bare-headed tortoises sing nursery rhymes in savage rage. There is no better mask than memory, hiding youthful indiscretions of history. You might not believe, but waging war against past lovers is a pure act of memory lapse. I am not surprised when my mother was ill. My only wooden doll's lips kept bleeding. Memory, a language game. And the second is something very special for Adil and Veronik. And this is for Veronik because this is something that I have never shared in public life. Women in my life, I've never talked about in public life. So in this tribute reading for the first time, I'm going to share this part of my life. I hope Veronik is listening and Adil is also listening. This is titled Women in My Life. Veronik, for you. In summer, I often return to my village. In summer, I often return to my village with a little sunlight like a book of magic. I spend the afternoon with fishes in the pond. Blue, yellow fishes love smoking hookah and shaking hands with traveling college students. They dress up with anklets of lotus flowers and coral necklace, rubbing, piercing the skin of wet, muddy fields. They sow the paddy fields, making love in lightning rains. When it gets late in the evening, they follow me home, giving me a warm shower, food, and quiet sleep in the throbbing night. They are the only women in my life. Veronik, they are the only women in my life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashwani, for bringing in all those wonderful metaphors, dual metaphors, which I think go very well with Veronik's personality, her brightness, her sparkle. Right. And as we draw towards the end of the reading, Anju Makhija, please, could we have your tribute?
Yeah, thank you, Priya. I'll be reading from 2 short poems from excerpts really from Tukaram Says Tuka by Dilip, translated by Dilip Chitre. All of you are probably familiar with the book and perhaps with these poems as well. I chose them towards the end because I knew that A comes last and whatever I would choose now should have another meaning, at least for me at least. Okay. I shall pay my tribute a bit later. I just want to read first. We have built ourselves a house in empty space. We reside in formless eternity. We are one with reality, bereft of illusions. We experience a wholeness that cannot be fragmented. Says Thakore, we do not have an ego anymore. We have become what is immutable and pure. I burnt the seed myself. I burnt the seed and pop it went. Now I have gone beyond life and death. Now I have gone beyond life and death. What space can enclose my form? My body itself is God. Sugar does not come again. Sugar does not become sugarcane again. We will never grow in another womb. Says Thakore, there is absolute awakening. There is Pandurang in everything. And I'll end with this. And I read it, but I think it's from all of us. Tukaram says farewell to his colleagues. See me off and go home now. All of you. May you attain the good, doing your duty righteously. My blessings go with you. You raised me and handed me over to the One. Now everything will work out for me. I followed what I cherished. It is time to go with the Lord of my breath. Do not let your affection linger any longer. Still your troubled minds. Those who have joined hands with me have achieved man's cherished integrity. Says Thakore, this is our last meeting. All I leave behind is stories about me. We go back to our native place. Goodbye. God bless you. This was our only meeting. We won't be born again. I beg your forgiveness now. I touch your feet as my last tribute. Whenever someone reaches home, meets the end, say, Vittal, Vittal. Say, Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna. Thakore is leaving for Vaikunt. And I'd just like to end by sharing a memory. The last time I met Veronik, she was making quiche, and we started talking about cheese. And we discussed, I guess, varieties of cheese and where we could get them cheaper or cheaply. And so as we discussed that, she was really engrossed in her food, the food she was cooking. And that's all we spoke about. And so the memory that remains is the word cheese. And today when I was preparing, I thought it would be nice that we end with the word cheese, all of us, because it makes us smile. And when we say cheese, and also we should always, I think, remember those memories fondly, which we will. There are a lot of mature poets here. And with that, it's merci beaucoup and bonne nuit.
Thank you, Anju, for those very, very moving lines. And as Thakore said, all we leave behind are stories. And we have our stories of Veronik. We have stories we too will leave behind when we never meet again. But the last poet to read this evening is Anand Thakore, who has known both Veronik and Adil for many years. So Anand, please go ahead.
Hi, am I audible? Hello? Okay. Right. So every time I called up Veronique or Adil, the first thing Veronique and I would discuss would be the weather. And so I associated her right from the beginning with two things, an elemental quality and color. Mustansir thought of reading Cummings, and a Cummings poem actually came to mind some days ago. So I'm going to read it. It's just about spring. And he uses an old-fashioned style. So it's thou and thee. O sweet, spontaneous earth. O sweet, spontaneous earth. How often have the doting fingers of prurient philosophers pinched and poked thee? Has the naughty thumb of science prodded thy beauty? How often have religions taken thee upon their scraggy knees, squeezing and buffeting thee that thou mightest conceive gods? But true to the incomparable couch of death, thy rhythmic lover, thou answerest them only with spring. So I thought of that, the answer of nature in connection with Veronique. Another strange thing I remembered, one of my first memories of Veronique is the shelf on the, the bathroom shelf that was full of these elaborately painted wine bottles. So color was always there, and it was strange that we had this debate about whether to wear black or not. I finally chose to wear orange, but black trousers. And I'm going to end with one small poem that works on a contrast of color, gray and green, really. Gray, not black, but gray enough. Negotiating negativity on the Western Ghats. I have waited all morning for this fog to clear, looking through its folds for stray signs of green. Yet now that the terraced slopes and paddy fields and the woods that it hid draw steadily near, the thick moss on a branch, the full height of a hill, and the lily-spotted weir shimmering insistently in late noon heat, the eye retreats in fear from approaching light, and I long more strongly for the fog to come down, covering in a single length of shroud the bright greens it wrapped in torn scraps of gray, and the watcher outside whom it would not drown. Vast spirit of presence, untutor my eyes, cast them into this swirl of gray and green till they come to feel at home in change. Grant them the craft of swift goodbyes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for this I find it very moving, and I'm very grateful to all of you for being here and reading. And thank you, Mansi, for shepherding us through this evening, because we had many queries and you saw us through. Thank you once again. And Adil, yes, we shall be with you. And Katya, we are with you.
Hey, candlelight.
So, thank you. Could we have the images, please? Thank you.
Yes, it's a candle in memory of Veronique is a nice idea. Come on. Wow. अच्छा हो गया तेरा lovely poems मत क्या
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. We end with those images of Veronik. It's been a very moving evening for me, and I think for many of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We meet later on another occasion. A happy one. Goodbye.
Yes.